Welcome to this audiobook, How to Truly Love Yourself, Powerful Self-Love Audiobook Motivation. If you've ever felt drained by self-doubt, overwhelmed by negative thoughts, or like you're constantly putting everyone else first, this audiobook is for you. Here, you will learn practical, actionable steps to strengthen your confidence, protect your energy, and build a deeper connection with yourself every single day. You'll discover how to stop criticizing yourself, how to forgive your past, and how to prioritize your needs without guilt. This isn't about empty positivity, it's about real change you can feel in your mind, body, and life. Every chapter will guide you through exercises, mindset shifts, and habits that create lasting self-respect and inner peace. Stick with this audiobook to transform your daily life, gain clarity, and start fully valuing yourself. Make sure to subscribe now and take the first step toward loving yourself completely. Chapter 1. Build daily trust in yourself through small, consistent actions. Trust is not something you wake up with one morning. It is something you build slowly through choices that feel small in the moment but powerful over time. When you decide to improve yourself every single day, you are not chasing perfection. You are strengthening the relationship you have with the one person you cannot live without, yourself. And that relationship grows through steady actions that prove you can rely on your own effort, your own discipline, and your own commitment. Most people wait for a big breakthrough before they allow themselves to believe in their potential. They wait for a dramatic moment of success, a sudden accomplishment, or a loud victory. But real growth rarely looks like that. Real growth looks quiet. It looks like waking up when the alarm rings instead of snoozing it. It looks like choosing a healthier option even when you are tired. It looks like finishing a task you promised to complete. It looks like doing what you said you would do even when no one is watching. These moments may look small to the world, but inside you, they are building something solid. They are creating a foundation of trust. Daily trust begins with honesty. Not the kind you offer others, but the kind you offer yourself. When you say you will do something, your mind listens. Every promise you keep strengthens your identity. Every promise you break weakens it. This is why starting small matters. When you set goals that are too big for your current level of discipline, you sabotage your own trust. You create a cycle where you make commitments you cannot keep, and then you begin to believe that you are someone who always fails. You might tell yourself that you lack discipline. You might feel ashamed, but the truth is simpler. The commitments were never designed to help you win. They were designed to overwhelm you. Building trust is not about doing everything at once. It is about doing one thing well, then doing it again tomorrow, and the next day, until it becomes part of who you are. Think about one simple action you could take every day that moves your life forward. Something that does not require perfection or grand effort. Something like 5 minutes of journaling, 10 minutes of exercise, reading a few pages of a book, or taking a moment to breathe before starting your day. The size does not matter. What matters is consistency. When you follow through with small commitments, you send a powerful message to yourself. You show that you are capable. You show that you are reliable. You show that your words mean something. And over time, this sense of reliability becomes part of your identity. Once you trust yourself with small actions, you will naturally begin to take on bigger challenges. Not because you are forcing yourself, but because you genuinely believe you can handle them. Many people struggle because they expect motivation to carry them. They wait for the perfect moment, the right energy, or a burst of excitement. But motivation is unpredictable. It rises and falls like the weather. Trust, on the other hand, is stable. When you build trust through small actions, you no longer depend on motivation. You depend on yourself. You show up because it is who you are, not because you feel inspired. That is where real power begins. Consistency is not about intensity. It is about identity. When you repeat a small action every day, your mind begins to see you as someone who follows through. This self-image quietly influences your decisions. You stop negotiating with yourself. You stop searching for excuses. You act because your actions match your identity. And this is where real self-improvement becomes effortless. Each day gives you a chance to cast a vote for the kind of person you want to be. The vote is small, but it counts. If you want to be stronger, you vote by working on your body. If you want to be smarter, you vote by learning something new. If you want to be calmer, you vote by practicing awareness. No single action makes you the person you want to become, but repeated actions shape your character. Over time, these small votes accumulate into confidence. Confidence is not loud. It is the quiet knowing that you can rely on yourself, that you have the discipline to meet your own expectations, that you can begin something and also finish it. When you start building trust through small, consistent actions, you may not see results immediately. That is normal. Growth does not reward impatience, but it does reward persistence. Imagine planting a seed. You water it daily. You give it sunlight. For a long time, nothing seems to happen, but beneath the surface, roots are forming. Strength is building where you cannot see it. One day, the seed breaks through the soil, but that moment is only possible because of everything that happened beforehand. Your self-growth works the same way. Your daily actions might feel invisible, but deep inside, your mindset is changing. Your discipline is growing. Your self-worth is rising. And eventually, you become the person who does not need external validation to stay committed. You trust the process because you trust yourself. Real-world application begins with choosing one small action you can complete every single day, without failure. Not 5 actions, not 10, just one. Maybe it is making your bed. Maybe it is drinking more water. Maybe it is reading something uplifting each morning. The action itself is not important. What matters is that you complete it every day. When you succeed for 1 week, you feel a shift. When you succeed for 2 weeks, you feel momentum. When you succeed for a month, you begin to believe that you can handle more. Identify one area of your life where you feel disappointed in yourself. Then choose a single action that begins to repair that disappointment. Keep the action simple enough that you cannot avoid it. Simplicity is not weakness, it is strategy. When you start seeing progress, avoid the temptation to add too much too quickly. Many people make this mistake. They start small, feel motivated, and then overload themselves. Eventually, they break the commitments and return to feeling discouraged. Trust grows slowly, and it needs stability. When you complete your simple daily action consistently, for a long period of time, you are ready to add a second small action, then a third. Not because you are pressuring yourself, but because you have proven that you can handle responsibility. This gradual progression builds character without creating burnout. Throughout this process, be patient but honest with yourself. When you slip, acknowledge it without shame, but also without excuses. Adjust your approach and continue moving. Self-trust does not require perfection. It requires sincerity. Every day offers a fresh opportunity to show up again. Over time, you begin to feel more grounded. You feel more capable. You feel more connected to your own effort. And that connection becomes the foundation of confidence. Not the temporary confidence that depends on achievement, but the lasting confidence that comes from knowing you can rely on your own actions. By building daily trust in yourself through small, consistent actions, you reclaim control over your life. You reduce self-doubt because you prove your strength through behavior, not wishes. You inspire yourself through discipline, not luck, and you begin to feel a sense of calm, knowing that each day you are becoming someone stronger, clearer, and more capable. Growth becomes a natural part of your life. Improvement becomes something you expect from yourself. And every action you take, moves you closer to the future you want. Each small step reinforces the belief that you are worthy of progress. Each simple choice becomes a building block of your identity. In time, you will look back and see that the transformation did not happen all at once. It happened through the steady commitment to becoming better every single day. Chapter 2. Accept your true self without seeking outside approval. Accepting yourself fully is one of the most important steps toward building real self-love, and it begins when you stop shaping your life around the thoughts and expectations of others. Many people spend years trying to be what someone else wants them to be. They adjust their personality, silence their feelings, and hide their flaws just to avoid judgment. This constant effort to fit into someone else's idea of who they should be drains their energy and weakens their sense of identity. When you seek approval from outside sources, you hand over your power. You allow others to decide whether you are worthy, valuable, or enough. Real freedom begins when you decide to see yourself through your own eyes, not through the lens of comparison or validation. Accepting your true self means understanding that you are not here to impress anyone. You are here to grow, to learn, to evolve, and to live in alignment with who you are. When you stop chasing acceptance, you begin to discover what actually matters to you. You start to listen to your own feelings, your own needs, and your own dreams. You stop apologizing for being yourself. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You stop pretending that you do not have desires, boundaries, or opinions. This shift allows you to step into your life with a calm sense of authenticity. There is strength in being yourself without fear of judgment. One of the reasons people struggle with self-acceptance is because they fear rejection. They worry that if they show their true self, they will be criticized or misunderstood. But hiding who you are does not prevent discomfort. It creates more of it. Pretending to be someone else only leads to frustration because you cannot build a meaningful life on a false foundation. You owe it to yourself to be honest about your feelings and preferences. When you honor your truth, you attract connections that are genuine instead of forced. The people who belong in your life will respect your authenticity. The ones who do not will drift away naturally, and that is a sign of growth, not loss. Accepting yourself also involves acknowledging your imperfections without shame. You do not need to be flawless to be worthy. You do not need to have every part of your life figured out. Growth is a continuous experience, and every part of you, your strength, your weaknesses, your uncertainties, is part of that process. Instead of judging yourself for what you cannot do yet, you can choose to appreciate what you are learning. When you treat yourself with compassion, you create room for improvement. Criticism shuts you down, but acceptance opens the door for change. Accepting yourself does not mean settle. It means recognizing that you are valuable at every stage of your journey. You can strengthen this acceptance by observing your thoughts without believing everything they say. Sometimes your mind repeats old fears or echoes negative comments from the past. These thoughts can make you doubt your worth. But they are not facts. They are reflections of past experiences that no longer define you. When you pause and question these thoughts, you regain control. You can respond with clarity instead of reacting with insecurity. This practice helps you build a healthier relationship with yourself, one where your inner voice becomes supportive rather than critical. Another part of accepting yourself is releasing the need to compare your life with the lives of others. Comparison steals your joy by convincing you that what you have is not enough. It pulls your focus away from your progress and makes you believe that someone else's success diminishes your own. But every person has a different journey, shaped by different circumstances and different challenges. You grow at your own pace. You discover your purpose in your own time. When you stop comparing, you allow your mind to breathe. You become more grateful for what you have and more motivated to build the life you truly want. You also strengthen self-acceptance by reconnecting with the parts of yourself you may have ignored. Your preferences, interests, emotions and quirks are not mistakes. They are expressions of your individuality. When you reconnect with them, you reconnect with your power. Spend time doing things that reflect who you are, not who you think you should be. Surround yourself with people who appreciate your uniqueness. Express your truth, even when it feels uncomfortable. Each time you behave in alignment with your real self, you reinforce your identity in a healthy way. Acceptance also grows when you allow yourself to take up space. Many people shrink themselves because they fear being judged as too much, too emotional, too opinionated, too different. But silencing yourself does not protect you. It only teaches you to ignore your own worth. You deserve to speak your truth. You deserve to share your ideas. You deserve to choose what is right for you. When you begin honoring your own voice, you develop a deeper sense of confidence. You stop waiting for permission and start giving yourself the freedom to be seen. You can strengthen this acceptance further by setting boundaries that protect your well-being. When you stop seeking approval, you stop tolerating situations that drain you. You start to recognize when someone is overstepping, and you choose to stand up for yourself. Boundaries are acts of self-respect. They communicate that your feelings are valid. They remind you that your needs matter. When you hold firm to your boundaries, you reinforce the belief that you deserve healthy and supportive relationships. A major part of accepting your true self is learning to enjoy your own company. When you are comfortable being alone, you stop depending on others to make you feel complete. You start discovering who you are without influence, without noise, without pressure. This solitude helps you understand your priorities and strengthens your emotional independence. You realize that you are whole on your own. Connections become something you choose, not something you cling to out of fear. Self-acceptance also grows when you celebrate your personal strength. You have qualities that make you unique, and recognizing them helps you appreciate your own value. Maybe you are empathetic, maybe you are creative, maybe you are resilient. These traits matter. They shape the way you impact the world. When you acknowledge your strength, you reinforce positive beliefs about yourself, which makes it easier to face challenges with confidence. Letting go of the need for approval is a gradual process, but every day gives you a chance to practice. You practice by speaking your truth. You practice by choosing what feels right for you. You practice by accepting your emotions without judgment. You practice by showing up authentically, even when it feels vulnerable. With each choice, you strengthen your connection to your true self. You create a life that reflects who you are, not who others expect you to be. And over time, you realize something powerful. The more you accept yourself, the less you need anyone else's approval. The more you honor your truth, the lighter you feel. The more you embrace your uniqueness, the stronger your self-love becomes. This kind of acceptance is not temporary. It becomes part of you. It becomes the foundation for your confidence, your peace, and your ability to live authentically. You no longer look outward for validation. You look inward and see that everything you need to feel whole has always been within you. Chapter 3. Release past hurts by choosing forgiveness every single day. Forgiveness is one of the hardest forms of self-love because it requires courage, honesty, and a deep commitment to your own peace. Holding on to past hurt often feels like protection, but in reality, it keeps you tied to moments that no longer deserve space in your life. When you carry old pain, your body remembers it, your thoughts repeat it, and your heart continues to react to it long after the situation has passed. Choosing forgiveness every single day is not about forgetting what happened or pretending it did not matter. It is about freeing yourself from the weight that keeps you from moving forward. It is a daily decision to stop reliving the past and start reclaiming your energy. Forgiveness is not about letting anyone off the hook. It is about recognizing that you no longer want to suffer because of what someone else did. When you hold on to resentment, you allow the past to control you. You let the person, the situation, or the memory influence your present thoughts and emotions. You deserve more than that. You deserve to breathe without heaviness in your chest, without tension in your heart, without anger lingering beneath every quiet moment. Releasing hurt does not mean the pain was insignificant. It means the pain no longer deserves to direct your life. Forgiveness begins with acknowledging the emotions you have tried to suppress. Many people avoid their feelings because they fear that facing the pain will break them, but ignoring the hurt only allows it to grow in silence. When you finally sit with your feelings, you begin to understand why the situation affected you so deeply. You see the disappointment, the betrayal, the sadness, or the confusion clearly. Accepting these emotions does not make you weak. It makes you honest. And honesty is the first step toward healing. You cannot release what you refuse to recognize. Once you allow yourself to feel, you can begin the process of untangling your identity from the pain. Many people internalize the hurt they experience. They think the moment defines who they are. They blame themselves, they question their worth, or they replay the situation in their mind until it becomes part of how they see themselves. Forgiveness gives you permission to separate your identity from the past. You are not what happened to you. You are not the mistake someone made. You are not the person you were when the pain occurred. You are someone who survived, someone who learned, someone who grew. Forgiving daily means reminding yourself that healing does not happen all at once. Some days will feel light, and other days the old emotions may return. But each time you choose forgiveness, you weaken the influence of the memory. You decrease its power. You create mental space for new experiences, new thoughts, and new forms of self-love. This daily choice is not a sign of failure, it is a sign of strength. You are choosing peace again and again, no matter how many times the past tries to resurface. Forgiveness also involves understanding that people act from their own wounds, fears, and limitations. This does not excuse their behavior, but it explains why they may have hurt you. When you see that their actions were a reflection of their own struggles, not your worth, the pain becomes less personal. You begin to detach from the idea that their choices define your value. Instead, you start seeing the situation as something that taught you clarity, boundaries, and strength. You learn to appreciate your ability to rise above it. A powerful part of daily forgiveness is choosing to speak to yourself with compassion. When you heal from past hurt, you may notice old patterns of self-blame or guilt. You may think you should have seen the signs, reacted differently, or protected yourself more. But this kind of self-judgment keeps you trapped in regret. Forgiveness means being gentle with yourself. It means reminding yourself that you did what you could with the knowledge and awareness you had at the time. You are wiser now, you are stronger now. You deserve to release the version of you that suffered so you can build a version of you that thrives. As you practice forgiving, you begin to create healthier emotional boundaries. You learn to recognize when someone's behavior is harmful, and you avoid allowing the same patterns to repeat. Forgiveness does not require allowing people back into your life. You can release the pain while still choosing distance. You can forgive without reconnecting. You can let go without returning to the same environment. Your peace is more important than anyone's expectations. Forgiveness also strengthens your ability to live in the present. When your mind is anchored to the hurt, it becomes difficult to enjoy what is in front of you. You miss opportunities for joy, growth, and connection because part of you is still replaying old moments. Releasing the past clears your vision. You begin to see life with more appreciation and less fear. You become more open to new experiences because you no longer expect old wounds to repeat themselves. You begin to trust life again. Choosing forgiveness every day also helps you reconnect with your inner strength. You realize that you can survive difficult moments and still rise with dignity. The fact that you are healing shows your resilience. The fact that you are trying shows your courage. Forgiveness becomes a quiet, powerful reminder that you are capable of rebuilding yourself from the inside out. With time, you start noticing that the memories that once triggered strong emotions now feel distant. The weight that once felt unbearable becomes lighter. The pain that once shaped your perspective begins to fade. This transformation does not happen overnight, but it happens consistently when you commit to releasing the hurt daily. Each time you forgive, you give yourself a little more freedom. Eventually you reach a point where you no longer feel controlled by the past. You no longer feel defined by what happened. You no longer feel attached to the anger or sadness. You become someone who has stepped beyond the pain and emerged with a stronger sense of self. That is the gift of forgiveness. It restores your power. It restores your peace. It restores your connection to who you truly are. Forgiveness is a form of liberation. You choose it, not for the sake of the past, but for the sake of your future. Every day that you release a piece of the hurt, you create more room for growth, clarity, and love. You give yourself permission to move forward with a lighter heart and a clearer mind. You honor your journey, your resilience, and your capacity to heal. And in doing so, you build a life that is no longer shaped by old wounds, but strengthened by the courage it took to rise above them. Chapter 4. Speak kindly to yourself. To strengthen inner confidence, your voice becomes the atmosphere you live in, and every word you whisper to yourself either builds your strength or drains your spirit. When you speak kindly to yourself, you begin to transform the quiet corners of your inner world, the places no one else can see but where all your confidence grows. You've spent years listening to thoughts that weren't yours, ideas planted by doubt, criticism, and the expectations of people who never carried your struggles. But now you're learning that you can choose a different language, one that lifts you instead of breaks you. Kind self-talk isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing a tone of compassion that allows you to rise instead of collapse under pressure. It is the steady, warm voice you deserve to hear when life feels heavy. There will be moments when your mind tries to bring up old insecurities, and those thoughts will arrive with force, as if they have the right to stay. In those moments, speak to yourself the way you would speak to someone you deeply care about. You would not call them weak for trying. You would not label them a failure for stumbling. You would not shame them for being human. You would listen, reassure, and remind them of their strength. Now give yourself that same devotion. Your inner confidence doesn't come from perfection. It comes from consistent reassurance that you are allowed to grow, evolve, and learn without tearing yourself apart in the process. When you start replacing harsh inner criticism with gentle encouragement, your entire emotional landscape becomes easier to navigate. Instead of forcing your way through obstacles with tension and fear, you begin approaching challenges with clarity and courage. Confidence isn't built in sudden leaps. It grows quietly each time you choose patience over punishment. Every time you say, "I'm trying," instead of "I'm failing," your mind learns to trust you. Every time you say, "I can improve," instead of "I'm not enough," your heart becomes lighter. And every time you choose understanding over judgment, you make room for a version of yourself that stands taller, breathes deeper, and believes more. It can feel unfamiliar at first, because you might have spent so long criticizing yourself that kindness feels like a language you have to relearn. But the same way negative thoughts became automatic through repetition, supportive thoughts can become just as natural with practice. Start with simple phrases that feel honest. Tell yourself, "I'm doing my best right now." Tell yourself, "I'm learning," and that's enough. Tell yourself, "I deserve patience." These simple sentences are not empty affirmations. They are seeds that grow into resilience. Over time, they turn into a steady internal voice that stands by you no matter how heavy life gets. You may have moments when the old patterns try to take over, when your mind drifts back to unkind conclusions about your worth or your ability. Don't treat these moments as failures. Treat them as reminders. They show you where the healing still needs time. When self-doubt shows up, respond with compassion instead of shame. Say to yourself, "This is just a thought, not the truth." Say, "I've overcome difficult moments before." Say, "I'm allowed to feel uncertain and still move forward." Speaking kindly doesn't erase challenges, but it changes the way you face them. It gives you the strength to keep moving, even when fear whispers that you should stop. And something powerful happens when you commit to self-compassion. You stop waiting for confidence to magically appear. Instead, you create it. Confidence does not grow from external praise or flawless outcome. It grows from the inner belief that even if you make mistakes, even if you struggle, you will not abandon yourself. When you hold that belief, the world feels less threatening. You stop measuring your value by other people's reactions, and you begin building an identity rooted in self-respect. You realize that you can speak softly and still be strong, that you can be gentle with yourself without losing discipline, that you can be kind without becoming complacent. Your inner voice becomes a guiding force that steadies you through setbacks. It becomes the encouragement you hear during moments of pressure, the reassurance you feel when you step outside your comfort zone, the confidence that echoes inside you when you take risks that once felt too intimidating. By speaking kindly to yourself, you train your mind to expect growth instead of defeat. You teach your heart to remain open even after past disappointments. You build a foundation of inner safety that gives you the courage to show up fully in your life. This shift also rewrites how you experience mistakes. Instead of treating them as proof that you're not good enough, you begin to see them as part of the process. You start understanding that growth requires moments of imbalance, and confidence requires moments of vulnerability. When you respond to your setbacks with empathy, you recover faster. Your spirit becomes less fragile, more flexible, more willing to try again. And the more you try, the more capable you become. Kindness fuels persistence. Persistence builds mastery. And mastery becomes the confidence you carry with you into every room, every project, every relationship. When your internal dialogue becomes warmer, your external life begins to change. You feel less threatened by challenges. You feel less affected by criticism. You feel less dependent on constant validation. Instead of shrinking in moments of doubt, you expand. You take up space, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin showing up as the real you, the version that has been buried under years of unnecessary self-criticism. Speaking kindly to yourself brings that version of you forward with grace and courage. Remember that self-kindness is not weakness, it is strength in its purest form. It is you choosing to stand on your own side in a world that often tries to pull you in 100 directions. It is you choosing peace over self-attack, clarity over self-blame, and growth over self-punishment. And the more you practice this choice, the stronger your inner confidence becomes. Confidence is not a gift you receive. It is a relationship you build with yourself. Every gentle word strengthens that bond. So keep speaking to yourself with the respect you deserve. Use words that support your effort, honor your journey, and recognize your worth. Let your inner voice become the friend that never leaves, the guide that reminds you of your strength, and the source of courage you can rely on every single day. The more kindness you give yourself, the more unstoppable your confidence becomes. Chapter 5. Protect your energy by setting clear, healthy boundaries. Your peace is not something you stumble upon. It's something you protect, nurture, and guard with intention. Your energy is one of the most precious resources you have. Yet for so long you may have allowed others to drain it without even realizing the cost. You grew up believing that being available, agreeable, and accommodating made you a good person, but now you're learning that constantly giving without limits slowly empties you from the inside. Setting boundaries is not an act of rejection, it is an act of self-respect. It is you choosing to honor your time, your emotions, and your well-being without guilt or apology. Boundaries are the way you teach the world how to treat you, and the way you teach yourself that your needs matter too. There comes a point in life when you can no longer carry the weight of trying to please everyone. You realize that every yes you give without thinking steals time from your own healing. Every time you stay silent when you feel uncomfortable, your body absorbs the tension you avoid expressing. Every moment you tolerate behavior that drains you, you send your soul the message that your peace is negotiable. But you are allowed to draw lines. You are allowed to take space. You are allowed to walk away from the things that exhaust your spirit. Saying no doesn't make you harsh. It makes you honest. And the more honest you become about your limits, the more powerful your energy grows. Boundaries begin with clarity. You must know what you can accept and what you cannot. You must recognize which behaviors make you feel cared for and which ones leave you feeling diminished. Pay attention to the moments your chest tightens, the conversations that leave you unsettled, the relationships that feel heavier than they should. Your body often identifies what your mind tries to ignore. When something consistently drains you, that is a sign, a quiet reminder that your well-being is asking for protection. Listening to that signal is a form of self-love. For a long time, you may have believed that protecting your energy meant distancing yourself from everyone, but true boundaries are not walls, they are guidelines. They allow healthy connections to flourish while preventing harmful patterns from repeating. When you communicate your needs clearly, you create relationships built on mutual respect rather than silent resentment. People who care about you will not be threatened by your boundaries. They will appreciate the honesty. Those who resist or push against them reveal that they were benefiting from your lack of limits. Boundaries show you who is meant to stay in your life and who was only there for what they could take from you. As you begin to honor your limits, notice the shift within yourself. Your mind becomes clearer, your emotions become steadier, your decisions become more intentional. You start spending time with people who nourish your spirit instead of draining it. You start choosing experiences that align with your values instead of pressuring yourself to perform for others. You feel lighter because you're no longer carrying expectations that were never yours to hold. And in that space, your confidence begins to grow. You begin to understand that your energy is sacred, and anyone who wants to be in your life must treat it with care. Protecting your energy also means recognizing when emotional boundaries are necessary. Not every conversation needs your involvement. Not every argument deserves your presence. Not every opinion requires a response. You don't have to absorb the frustration, chaos, or negativity of others. When someone tries to pull you into their storm, you can choose to stay in your calm. You can say, "I hear you, but this is not healthy for me." You can say, "I need space before I continue this conversation." You can say, "This dynamic no longer supports my growth." Emotional boundaries are not acts of avoidance. They are acts of self-preservation. They protect your heart from being overwhelmed by burdens that do not belong to you. Time boundaries are equally important. Your hours are limited, and when you spend them on things that don't align with your goals, you rob yourself of the opportunity to grow. Whether it's endless favors, constant distractions, or obligations that drain your motivation, you have the right to reclaim your time. You can choose when you are available. You can choose how much energy you invest. You can choose to step away from commitments that no longer feel meaningful. And you are allowed to do all of this without guilt. Your time is part of your life, and you deserve to live it intentionally. Mental boundaries help you protect your thoughts from spiraling into stress, or anxiety caused by the expectations of others. You can refuse to carry criticism that doesn't reflect your truth. You can release the need to explain yourself to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You can decide that your peace will not be hijacked by opinions that add no value to your life. Your mind becomes stronger each time you reject narratives that limit your potential. You begin to trust your judgment, your intuition, and your ability to choose what aligns with your growth. As you practice setting boundaries, something powerful begins to happen. You no longer feel the need to justify your decisions. You stop over-explaining your emotions. You stop apologizing for taking care of yourself. You stop shrinking to make others comfortable. You begin choosing what supports your energy, not what drains it. And with each boundary you honor, your sense of self becomes stronger, steadier, and more grounded. You begin to realize that loving yourself is not just about positive words. It is about protecting the space where your spirit grows. There will be people who don't understand the new version of you. They may question your decisions or accuse you of change, but you are not responsible for how others react to your self-respect. Your only responsibility is to honor the truth of who you are becoming. You are learning that peace is worth protecting, even if it disappoints others. You are learning that your happiness cannot be built on sacrificing your emotional health. You are learning that choosing yourself is not selfish. It is necessary. And in the moments when setting boundaries feels uncomfortable, remind yourself that discomfort doesn't mean you're doing something wrong. It means you're breaking old habits. It means you're healing patterns of overgiving. It means you're rewriting the rules of your own life. Every boundary you set becomes a declaration that you value your energy and refuse to let it be misused. Over time, this new strength becomes natural. It becomes part of who you are. It becomes the foundation of a healthier, more balanced, more empowered life. Your energy is your life force. Protect it fiercely, honor it consistently, and guard it with love. Because when you protect your energy, you protect your future. Chapter 6. Choose habits that support your growth and emotional balance. Growth doesn't happen by accident. It happens through the choices you make every day, the routines you commit to, and the habits you repeat even when no one is watching. When you finally decide that your well-being matters, you begin to see that the small things you do consistently carry more weight than the big changes you attempt once in a while. Choosing habits that support your growth and emotional balance is not about perfection. It's about building a life that feels steady, meaningful, and supportive from the inside out. It's about shaping your days in a way that aligns with who you want to become instead of who you've been forced to be. There comes a moment when you realize that your real patterns either lift you higher or pull you backward. You wake up one day and feel the consequences of the choices you've repeated for years. You feel the effects of rushing through your mornings, ignoring your emotions, avoiding self-care, and numbing yourself with distractions. You see how easy it is to lose yourself in routines that feel automatic, but leave you anxious and unfulfilled. And then something shifts within you. You begin to understand that your habits are not just tasks. They are commitments to yourself. They represent the relationship you have with your own potential. Creating habits that support your emotional balance begins with awareness. You must take a clear and honest look at how you spend your time, and those choices affect your mood. Notice what leaves you feeling grounded and what leaves you feeling overwhelmed. Maybe you feel calmer when you start your morning without grabbing your phone immediately. Maybe you feel more centered when you take a few minutes in silence before engaging with the world. Maybe you feel more stable when you move your body, drink water, or take short breaks throughout the day. These small adjustments may seem insignificant, but they change the rhythm of your life in powerful ways. Your habits should serve your growth, not sabotage it. When you choose routines that nourish your mind and body, you create a foundation strong enough to support your goals and dreams. You begin to rely on discipline instead of motivation. Motivation comes and goes, but discipline shows up even when you don't feel like it. Discipline becomes a quiet promise you keep with yourself. I will do what's good for me even when it's difficult. This promise builds confidence, because every time you honor it, you prove to yourself that you are capable of consistency. One of the most important habits you can build is learning to pause before reacting. Emotional balance grows from the ability to step back, breathe, and understand what you're feeling without letting the emotion take control. When you create space between your thoughts and your reactions, you give yourself room to respond with clarity instead of impulse. This single habit can change the way you communicate, solve problems, and navigate conflict. It helps you stay grounded even in difficult situations, and it teaches you to trust your own judgment. Another growth-supporting habit is taking daily responsibility for your mindset. You decide what you feed your mind, the content you consume, the conversations you engage in, and the thoughts you allow to linger, all shape the emotional tone of your day. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, you cannot expect to feel peaceful. If you constantly compare yourself to others, you cannot expect to feel confident. Growth requires intentional input, uplifting content, supportive relationships, inspiring ideas, and quiet moments where you tune into your own truth instead of the noise around you. Choosing habits that support your emotional balance also means creating routines that bring you back to yourself. This could be journaling to release the thoughts that weigh you down. It could be meditating to reset your mind. It could be taking slow walks when your emotions feel heavy. It could be spending a few minutes each evening reflecting on what went well instead of focusing only on what went wrong. These small rituals remind you that your well-being deserves attention. They help you reconnect with your inner stability when life feels chaotic. Your physical habits matter too. The state of your body influences the state of your mind, far more than you realize. When you get enough rest, nourish yourself properly, and move your body regularly, your emotions become easier to navigate, your stress levels decrease, your patience increases, your thoughts become clearer. You are not meant to push yourself endlessly without care. Prioritizing the basics of physical health is one of the most powerful ways to support emotional growth, because your body and mind are deeply connected. It's also important to cultivate habits that reinforce self-discipline. A disciplined life is not rigid, it is intentional. It means choosing what benefits your future self instead of what only feels good in the moment. It means keeping your promises to yourself even when no one else is holding you accountable. When you follow through on commitments you set for your own growth, you build inner strength. You begin to trust yourself. You stop doubting your abilities. You start believing that you can handle anything because you've proven it through your actions. Another powerful habit is creating space for positive self-talk. It might feel simple, but the way you speak to yourself shapes your emotional landscape. When you replace self-criticism with encouragement, you nurture a supportive inner environment. You begin to approach challenges with a calmer and more confident mindset. You start taking risks because you trust your ability to rise again if you fall. Emotional balance grows whenever you choose compassion over judgment in the way you treat yourself. Surrounding yourself with habits that promote growth also means letting go of the ones that don't. You cannot expect emotional stability while clinging to routines that drain your energy. You cannot expect progress while holding on to habits that keep you stagnant. You must be willing to step away from behaviors that no longer align with the person you are becoming. This may mean cutting back on distractions, breaking unhelpful patterns, or distancing yourself from environments that encourage your worst habits. Growth often requires release before it allows expansion. As you commit to these supportive habits, you begin to feel a shift inside yourself. Your days feel more grounded, your emotions feel more manageable, your decisions feel more aligned with your values. You stop rushing through life and start experiencing it with intention. You see your progress not in perfection, but in the steady improvements you make over time. You realize that the power to create a healthier, stronger, more balanced version of yourself has always been within you. Choosing habits that support your growth is an act of self-love. It is you saying, "My future deserves my effort." It is you taking responsibility for your emotional world instead of allowing circumstances to control it. It is you deciding that you are worthy of stability, peace, and strength. Once you build habits that support your growth, you begin to rise in ways you never imagined. Your confidence deepens, your resilience expands, your life becomes a reflection of the choices you make with intention and care. And each day, as you show up for yourself, through simple, consistent actions, you strengthen the foundation upon which your best self can grow. Your habits shape your future, your decisions shape your character, and the commitment you make today shapes the person you will become tomorrow. Chapter 7. Celebrate your progress to reinforce belief in your worth. Progress often goes unnoticed because you are so used to pushing yourself forward that you forget to pause and acknowledge how far you have already come. You get caught in the pursuit of the next goal, the next improvement, the next version of yourself, and you overlook the quiet victories that have shaped your journey. Celebrating your progress is not about feeding your ego or seeking praise. It is about recognizing your effort, honoring your growth, and reminding yourself that you are capable, worthy, and evolving. When you learn to value your progress, you strengthen the belief that your actions matter and that your growth is real. This belief becomes fuel for your future steps and confidence for your next chapter. There was a time when you doubted yourself, questioned your abilities, and wondered whether change was even possible. Yet here you are, reading this, learning, trying, evolving. That alone is progress. You have overcome moments that once felt impossible. You have survived days when you felt overwhelmed. You have made choices that reflect your strength, even if you didn't fully see it at the time. Every moment of resilience you've shown deserves acknowledgement. When you pause to appreciate these small victories, you create a powerful internal shift. You remind yourself that you are not the same person you once were. You reinforce the truth that growth is happening, even if it's not always visible. The habit of celebrating your progress trains your mind to see your efforts instead of your flaws. Too often, you focus only on what you haven't achieved, what you think you lack, or what you wish you had done better. This mindset creates a sense of failure, even when you are moving in the right direction. By learning to recognize your progress, you break that pattern. You begin to notice the small steps that are building your future. You realize that improvement is not always dramatic. Sometimes it shows up quietly, in more patience, a calmer reaction, a healthier choice, or a moment of clarity. These subtle shifts deserve recognition because they carry you toward the person you are becoming. When you celebrate progress, you also strengthen your relationship with yourself. You learn to trust your efforts instead of dismissing them. You show yourself kindness instead of criticism. You build a supportive inner voice instead of a harsh one. You start treating yourself like someone worth encouraging, someone whose effort matters, someone who deserves to feel proud. This shift in self-talk creates inner stability. It gives you the strength to continue growing even when the journey feels slow. Progress becomes easier to sustain when you learn to acknowledge it. Your mind naturally gravitates toward what you repeat. If you repeatedly ignore your growth, you will feel stuck. If you repeatedly notice your progress, you will feel motivated. By celebrating your wins, you build a mindset of evidence, a mindset that sees proof of your effort and believes in your potential. This belief becomes a foundation for your self-worth, because you no longer rely on external approval or validation to feel good about yourself. You begin to understand your value through your own eyes. One of the most powerful ways to reinforce belief in your worth is to recognize the moments you showed courage. Think about the times you acted, even when you were afraid. Think about the moments when you stood up for yourself, even if your voice. Think about the small but meaningful decisions that nudged you toward healing, growth, and self-respect. These moments deserve gratitude. They deserve acknowledgement. They are the building blocks of your strength. Another important part of celebrating progress is learning to appreciate effort, not just outcomes. You may not be where you want to be yet, but you are taking steps, and those steps are worthy of celebration. When you appreciate your effort, you reduce the pressure to be perfect. You start focusing on growth instead of comparison. You stop judging yourself harshly for not being at the finish line and begin honoring yourself for showing up. This mindset allows you to enjoy the journey instead of feeling constantly behind. Celebrating your progress also helps you build emotional resilience. When discomfort or setbacks arise, you can look back at your growth and remind yourself that you have overcome challenges before. You remember that you are capable of adaptation, strength, and perseverance. This awareness gives you stability during difficult times because you have evidence of your resilience. You no longer crumble under pressure because you know you have the ability to rise, adapt, and continue moving forward. There are countless ways to celebrate your progress. You can acknowledge your wins privately, writing them down at the end of the day to reinforce a sense of accomplishment. You can reflect on the emotional changes you've noticed within yourself, how you handle situations differently, how your reactions have softened, how your confidence has grown. You can express gratitude for the steps you've taken, no matter how small. You can treat yourself to rest, time, or something meaningful. When you reach a personal milestone, the method matters far less than the intention. What matters is that you recognize your progress instead of dismissing it. Even routines that seem simple can be forms of celebration. Taking a moment to appreciate your breath when you wake up, giving yourself credit for sticking to a habit, acknowledging the strength it took to make a healthy choice, or recognizing the growth in how you think. These are all celebrations. They create a gentle but powerful sense of self-appreciation. They remind you that you are not defined by your past or by your mistakes. You are defined by your willingness to rise every day and continue growing. When you celebrate your progress consistently, you strengthen the belief that you are worthy of good things. You begin to see yourself as someone capable of change, someone who deserves peace, someone who is strong enough to create a life that aligns with their values. This belief in your worth becomes a quiet confidence that influences every part of your life. You make better choices because you believe you deserve better. You set healthier boundaries because you value your emotional well-being. You treat yourself with more compassion because you recognize your effort. Celebrating progress is an act of kindness toward yourself. It is a way of saying, I see you, I appreciate you, I'm proud of you. It is a reminder that growth is not measured only by visible achievements, but by the inner shifts you experience every day. It is proof that you are worthy of acknowledgement. Even when the world is silent, you deserve to recognize your strength. You deserve to honor your journey. You deserve to celebrate your progress, because every step you have taken has shaped the person you are today. And when you continue to acknowledge your growth, you anchor yourself in a truth that will carry you through every challenge ahead. You are capable, you are evolving, and you are worthy of the life you are building. One step, one choice, and one moment of celebration at a time. Chapter 8. Let go of negative self-talk to create inner peace. There comes a moment in every person's life when they realize that the loudest voice shaping their reality isn't the world outside, it's the voice inside their own mind. And for far too many people, that voice has turned into a relentless critic, whispering doubts, replaying past mistakes, and creating storms where peace should live. Letting go of negative self-talk is not just an emotional desire, it is a revolutionary act of self-respect. It is the beginning of a life where your mind becomes a sanctuary instead of a battlefield. Negative self-talk doesn't always roar. Sometimes it creeps in softly, disguised as concern or realism. It shows up when you think you're not good enough, when you downplay your achievements, when you apologize for being yourself, or when you convince yourself that you don't deserve better. These small, quiet thoughts might seem harmless, but over time they shape how you feel, how you act, and what you believe is possible for you. And if the voice inside constantly diminishes your worth, your outer life begins to shrink to match that inner narrative. But here's the truth you must hold on to. No one is born speaking to themselves harshly. That voice was learned, influenced by past experiences, criticism you internalized, or moments when you felt powerless. And anything learned can be unlearned. You are not chained to old narrative. You are capable of rewriting the way you relate to yourself. One thought at a time. Letting go of negative self-talk begins with awareness. Most people repeat the same harmful thoughts every day without noticing the pattern. They don't realize how often they use words like always, never, or can't. They don't hear the frustration hidden in phrases like "I messed up again," "I should have known better," or "Why can't I be like everyone else?" These automatic thoughts create an emotional loop that blinds you to your strength. But when you begin to notice the tone of your inner voice, you step into a new level of consciousness. You catch yourself in the act. You pause long enough to question whether the words running through your mind are facts, assumptions, or just emotional leftovers from a version of you that no longer exists. Once you gain awareness, the next step is to challenge those thoughts. Every negative statement your mind repeats carries a deeper belief beneath it. If you tell yourself you're not capable, somewhere you've accepted the belief that capability is fixed and can't be strengthened. If you call yourself a failure, you're assuming that one moment defines your entire identity. But when you confront those beliefs with honesty, they begin to lose their hold. You start asking yourself questions that open your perspective. Is this thought helping me? Is it even true? Would I say this to someone I care about? What evidence do I have that supports or contradicts this belief? These questions weaken the foundation of self-criticism and allow more balanced, compassionate thoughts to take root. The goal is not to replace negative thoughts with empty positivity. Forced positivity feels fake, and your mind knows it. The real goal is to cultivate a voice that is fair, grounded, and supportive. A voice that acknowledges your mistakes without turning them into a judgment of your character. A voice that focuses on what's possible, not on what you fear. A voice that treats you with the same patience you offer to people you love. To create inner peace, you must practice speaking to yourself with intention. Every time an unkind thought appears, imagine turning down its volume and turning up the voice that sees your potential. This doesn't happen overnight. It happens in small, quiet decisions. The decision to forgive yourself, the decision to redirect your focus, the decision to choose understanding over self-blame. Over time, these decisions reshape your internal world. You begin to feel lighter. Your thoughts feel less chaotic. You stop bracing for disappointment and begin expecting growth. Letting go of negative self-talk also requires learning to detach from the need for perfection. So many people torture themselves with impossible standards, believing they must never make mistakes, never show weakness, never fall short. But perfection is not a requirement for worthiness. It never has been. Your value doesn't increase with your achievements, nor does it decrease with your flaws. When you finally release the belief that you must earn your own approval, your inner world becomes calmer. You stop fighting yourself. You stop trying to prove something that was true all along. You are enough as you are. Another powerful shift happens when you stop identifying with your thoughts. A thought is just a moment of mental activity. It is not your identity. You can observe it without absorbing it. You can let it pass without giving it power. When a harsh thought arises, you can say, "This is just a thought, not a truth." That simple recognition breaks the cycle of self-criticism and grants you the space to respond with clarity rather than emotion. Creating inner peace also means letting go of comparisons. Your mind cannot be kind to you if it is constantly measuring you against someone else's timeline, appearance, or achievements. Comparison breeds insecurity, and insecurity feeds negative self-talk. But when you focus on your own journey, your pace, your growth, your evolution, you reclaim your energy. You begin to see that your life doesn't need to mirror anyone else's to be meaningful. You understand that your progress is valid, no matter how slow it feels. And then comes one of the most important elements: forgiveness. Inner peace cannot exist where self-blame refuses to leave. You must learn to forgive yourself for the moments you didn't know better, for the times you acted out of fear, for the mistakes you made while trying to survive or grow. Forgiveness doesn't erase the past, but it frees you from reliving it. It opens the door to compassion, and compassion is the soil in which self-love grows. As your inner voice becomes kinder, life begins to feel different. Your decisions become more confident. Your relationships deepen because you no longer project your insecurities onto others. You take more risks, not because you're certain of success, but because you finally believe you deserve the chance to try. Your energy shifts. Your spirit feels lighter. You begin to trust yourself again. Letting go of negative self-talk is not an act you do once. It is a daily practice, a commitment to your own peace. There will be days when old thoughts return, but that doesn't mean you're failing. It simply means you're human. And every time you choose to redirect your mind toward compassion, you strengthen the belief that your inner world belongs to you, not to your past, not to your doubts, not to your fears. You deserve a mind that feels safe. You deserve thoughts that nurture instead of destroy. You deserve an inner voice that lifts you the way you lift others. Giving yourself that gift is one of the most powerful expressions of self-love you will ever make. And once you experience the freedom that comes from releasing your harshest thoughts, you will realize that peace was never something you had to earn. It was something you had to allow. Chapter 9. Invest time in activities that nourish your mind and body. Your body and mind are the instruments through which you experience life, yet so often they are neglected while you chase external goals or try to meet the cadence of others. Investing time in activities that nourish your mind and body is not a luxury. It is a necessity for living a full, balanced, and empowered life. It is a way of honoring yourself, respecting your potential, and creating a foundation that allows you to thrive rather than merely survive. Every choice to nurture yourself is a choice to cultivate energy, clarity, and resilience that will ripple into every area of your life. The small, consistent actions you take for yourself matter more than you realize, because they shape the quality of every moment you experience. Nourishing your body begins with recognizing it as a vessel for your life, not an object to be ignored or abused. What you feed yourself, how you move, how you rest, and how you treat your body physically all influence how you feel emotionally and mentally. When you dedicate time to wholesome nutrition, regular movement, and sufficient sleep, you are not simply maintaining your body, you are strengthening your mind, stabilizing your emotions, and enhancing your capacity to face challenges. Physical care is directly tied to mental clarity. A well-fueled body carries a sharper mind. A rested body allows for calmer, more thoughtful responses. Movement stimulates creativity, releases tension, and improves mood. Each step, stretch, and healthy choice compounds over time, creating a life of vitality that supports your growth. Investing in your mind requires equal attention. The quality of your thoughts, the information you consume, and the focus you dedicate to learning and reflection all shape the landscape of your consciousness. Reading, listening to enriching content, practicing mindfulness, or engaging in meaningful conversations are all ways to feed your mind. They help you grow in understanding, perspective, and creativity. A nourished mind develops resilience, emotional intelligence, and clarity. It allows you to discern what matters most, make wiser decisions, and respond rather than react. Your mental energy is finite, so the more you actively cultivate it, the more capable you become of navigating life with intention and confidence. Time invested in nourishing activities must be intentional. It cannot be left to chance or squeezed into neglected moments. This requires self-discipline and prioritization. Setting aside deliberate blocks for exercise, meditation, reflection, reading, or creative pursuits is a declaration that your well-being is important. It signals that your growth, your peace, and your vitality are non-negotiable. This is not selfishness, it is stewardship. You are taking care of the one resource that determines the quality of every other action you take, yourself. The stronger, clearer, and calmer you are internally, the more effectively you can interact with the world and support those around you. Nourishing activities are not always glamorous or dramatic. Often they are simple, quiet, and deeply personal. A morning stretch routine, a walk in nature, journaling your thoughts, preparing a healthy meal, or spending time practicing a craft are all forms of self-investment. The impact is not immediate, but consistent effort builds a foundation of strength and clarity that becomes unshakable over time. The body and mind respond to repeated acts of care in ways that compound, creating vitality, focus, and a sense of calm that feels effortless because it has been cultivated consistently. Balance is essential in nourishing both mind and body. Overemphasizing one while neglecting the other limits growth and stability. Physical fitness without mental stimulation leaves a restless mind. Mental effort without physical care results in fatigue and depletion. To fully invest in yourself, both must be integrated. Movement, nutrition, rest, reflection, learning, and creative expression are not separate activities. They are interconnected threads that weave the fabric of a resilient, empowered life. When you honor both, your energy increases, your emotional stability improves, and your capacity to handle stress multiplies. Investing time in yourself also requires discerning what drains your energy versus what replenishes it. Activities that nourish you are not obligations imposed from outside. They are choices that feel fulfilling and restorative. Social media scrolling, toxic interactions, or overcommitment to meaningless tasks might occupy time but leave you depleted. Recognizing these energy drains allows you to redirect your focus toward what restores vitality. Nourishing activities provide a sense of growth, joy, and alignment with your values. They enhance self-awareness, foster creativity, and deepen your sense of purpose. They are investments that pay lifelong dividends in well-being and self-respect. Another essential aspect of nourishing the mind and body is consistency. Benefits compound over time. A single workout, a single mindful hour, or a single nourishing meal is valuable, but repeated commitment builds structure and strength. Your habits define the trajectory of your life more than isolated effort. By making regular investment in your well-being, you reinforce a positive feedback loop. The more you nurture yourself, the better you feel. The better you feel, the more you are able to nurture yourself. The more you nurture yourself, the more energy and clarity you bring to all areas of life. This cycle creates stability and resilience that cannot be easily shaken by external circumstances. Emotional nourishment is equally critical. Engaging in activities that provide joy, creativity, reflection, and meaningful connection is essential for mental balance. Laughter, self-expression, quiet contemplation, and engaging in hobbies are not trivial. They are essential nutrients for the soul. When you allow yourself these experiences without guilt, you cultivate a sense of completeness that reduces stress, strengthens self-worth, and fosters positivity. Emotional investment in your own life is a recognition that your inner world deserves attention, care, and intentional cultivation. Investing in activities that nourish your mind and body also teaches self-respect. It sends a clear message to yourself: you are worthy of care, attention, and it trains you to prioritize your needs without guilt and creates boundaries that protect your well-being. When you consistently choose activities that restore energy and enhance clarity, you no longer wait for permission to care for yourself. You stop neglecting your growth and health because of outside pressures. You internalize the belief that your life is valuable and that your presence matters. Finally, the most transformative effect of investing in yourself is the way it shifts your relationship with life. You become more patient, more focused, more capable of handling challenges, and more present. You respond rather than react. You make choices from a place of abundance instead of scarcity. You experience life fully because your mind is alert, your body is energized, and your spirit is nourished. When you consistently dedicate time to activities that enhance both your mind and body, you are laying the foundation for a life of resilience, purpose, and joy. You are building a future in which your potential is honored, your capabilities are strengthened, and your daily experience is one of vitality, clarity, and balance. Each moment invested in self-care becomes a brick in the structure of a meaningful and empowered life, and the cumulative effect is unstoppable growth, unwavering confidence, and the profound realization that caring for yourself is the most powerful act of love you can give to your present and future self. Chapter 10. Stand up for your needs to build unshakable self-respect. Standing up for your needs is one of the most profound acts of self-respect you can perform because it communicates to yourself and the world that your well-being matters. For too long, many people have conditioned themselves to prioritize others, to accommodate requests, and to suppress their own desires out of fear, guilt, or a belief that their needs are less important. But a life lived this way slowly erodes confidence, creates resentment, and diminishes self-worth. True empowerment comes when you recognize that honoring your needs is not selfish, but essential for maintaining your integrity, energy, and personal growth. Every time you assert what you require, you reinforce the value you place on yourself and lay the groundwork for a life defined by authenticity rather than obligation. Understanding your own needs is the first step towards standing up for them. Many people live in confusion or neglect of what they truly require emotionally, mentally, and physically. Take the time to reflect on what nourishes your mind, what brings peace to your heart, and what sustains your body. Identifying these needs is not indulgent, it is practical. When you know what you require, you are equipped to communicate it clearly to yourself and others. You begin to operate from a place of self-awareness instead of reaction, making it easier to claim the respect and space that you deserve. Communicating your needs requires clarity and confidence. It is not enough to recognize your needs internally. They must be expressed externally when circumstances demand it. Speaking up does not mean demanding or being aggressive. It means articulating with respect and honesty what is essential for your well-being. This might look like saying no to a request that drains your energy, asking for support when you are overwhelmed, or setting boundaries with people who overstep. Each act of communication reinforces your belief and your own worth and strengthens your ability to live in alignment with your values. Standing up for your needs also means confronting discomfort. The fear of rejection, conflict, or judgment often prevents people from asserting themselves. You might worry that saying no will make you unlikable or that asking for help will expose weakness. Yet the truth is that personal integrity and self-respect are far more important than momentary approval. When you choose to honor your needs despite fear, you cultivate courage and resilience. You learn that discomfort is temporary, but the consequences of ignoring yourself are lasting. Each time you act despite hesitation, you reinforce the unshakable foundation of your self-respect. Consistency is key in building unshakable self-respect. One act of standing up for yourself is powerful, but repeated practice transforms your inner belief system. Over time, you stop negotiating your values or compromising your peace to avoid conflict. You begin to move through life with the quiet confidence that comes from knowing you can depend on yourself. When others recognize your consistency, they naturally respect your boundaries, and you no longer need to fight for acknowledgement. Your self-respect becomes visible through the integrity with which you live each day. Recognizing that your needs are legitimate is central to this process. You may have been conditioned to believe that the desires of others are more important, or that your needs are unworthy of attention. Challenging this belief requires honesty and self-compassion. Your needs are not obstacles or inconveniences. They are indicators of your value and humanity. By treating your needs as valid, you break cycles of self-neglect and create a template for others to follow in their treatment of you. Respect begins internally and radiates outward. Another crucial aspect is learning to set boundaries without guilt. Many people conflate standing up for themselves with selfishness, but the reality is that boundaries protect your energy and maintain your equilibrium. A boundary might mean saying no to social obligations that deplete you, declining work tasks that exceed your capacity, or limiting time with people who diminish your sense of self. Boundaries are not walls to isolate you. They are guidelines that preserve your focus, energy, and self-worth. Every boundary you enforce strengthens your sense of identity and reinforces the belief that your life is your responsibility. Standing up for your needs also creates a ripple effect in relationships. When you consistently honor yourself, you teach others how to treat you. People begin to respond with respect and consideration because they recognize your confidence and clarity. This doesn't guarantee universal compliance, but it ensures that you interact with the world from a place of power rather than passivity. Your relationships improve not through manipulation or demands, but through authenticity and integrity. You attract connections that align with your values and repel those that drain your energy or undermine your self-worth. Self-respect grows when your actions consistently reflect your inner values. Words alone are insufficient. You must follow through. Each commitment you make to honor your needs strengthens your credibility with yourself. When you recognize that you can rely on your own judgment and will, you no longer feel diminished by external opinions or pressures. The alignment between your intentions and your actions fosters confidence, stability, and you become a person who doesn't just talk about self-respect, but embodies it fully. Courage, clarity, and consistency form the foundation of unshakable self-respect. Courage allows you to face fear and discomfort. Clarity ensures you know what you truly require. Consistency guarantees that your actions reinforce your values over time. Together, these qualities create a framework where you no longer compromise your integrity for approval or convenience. You develop an inner authority that shapes your choices and establishes a standard of living that honors your essence. Every moment spent standing up for yourself becomes a declaration that your life, your peace, and your growth are worth protecting. Ultimately, building unshakable self-respect through standing up for your needs is not a single achievement. It is a lifelong commitment. It requires vigilance, practice, and self-compassion. There will be times when fear, doubt, or external pressure challenges your resolve. Yet every choice to honor yourself, every assertion of your boundaries, and every acknowledgement of your worth reinforces the foundation of a life lived authentically. You learn that respect is cultivated internally first, and that the strength to navigate any situation lies in your ability to remain true to yourself. By consistently standing up for your needs, you cultivate a sense of self-respect that cannot be shaken by circumstances or the opinions of others, creating a life of integrity, empowerment, and enduring confidence.